Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Horror Stories. I know many of you enjoy listening to these episodes as you fall asleep, and I'm truly grateful you're here. Before you fall asleep, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. It's always amazing to see listeners from around the world. And if you enjoy these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new nightmare. Now, dim the lights, get comfortable, and let's welcome the Nightmare Igniter. Story 1. The woman in room 613 had been dead for 42 years, but every night at 11:30, she called the front desk and asked for fresh towels. I know because I answered her. My name is Michael Reeves. I was 31 when I took the night auditor position at the Ashcroft Hotel in Cleveland. I had recently separated from my wife, and the job suited me because I could work while my 6-year-old son slept at her apartment across town. The hours were lonely, but the pay was steady, and I needed something predictable. The Ashcroft was an old downtown hotel squeezed between a parking garage and an abandoned department store. Its brass doors were always polished, but the carpets smelled faintly of dust and radiator heat. The lobby ceiling was painted with cherubs whose faces had darkened from decades of cigarette smoke. On my first night, the front desk manager, Denise Holloway, trained me. Denise was in her 50s, sharp-eyed and efficient. She showed me the register, the security monitors, the fire panel, and the guest log. Then she tapped a red line printed beneath the room list. Never assign anyone to 613. Maintenance issue. It's not in service. The room still appeared on the system. Occupied. Guest name, Eleanor Vale. Check-in date, October 18th, 1981. I laughed because I thought it was a software glitch. Denise did not. If that room calls, send towels to the 6th floor service elevator. You're serious? Don't go up yourself. The bellman beside us, a thin young man named Jamal, glanced over. She doesn't like new employees, he said. Denise cut him a warning look. Enough. At 11:30, the desk phone rang. The screen displayed 613. I stared at it until Denise said, "Answer." I picked up. Front desk. "This is Michael." A woman spoke softly. "Could I have 2 fresh towels, please?" Her voice was calm and cultured, the kind of voice that made every word sound carefully chosen. "Of course." "May I have your name?" Denise closed her eyes. The woman paused. "You already have it." The line went dead. Jamal folded 2 towels, placed them in the service elevator, and pressed the button for the 6th floor. When the doors reopened 10 minutes later, the towels were gone. I asked him what happened if no one sent them. He looked toward Denise. "She calls from another room." The following nights were quiet. I settled into the rhythm of balancing receipts, checking late arrivals, and listening to the old radiators knock behind the walls. The staff avoided the 6th floor after midnight. Housekeeper Marta Alvarez was the only one willing to discuss it. She had worked at the hotel for 27 years and spoke about the building as though it were a difficult relative. "Some guests stay because they want to," she told me while restocking coffee. "Others stay because the hotel remembers them." What happened to Eleanor Vale? Marta's hands stopped moving. "You should ask why her family never came looking." I searched online during my break. Eleanor Vale had disappeared in 1981 while attending a banking conference at the Ashcroft. Her suitcase remained in her room. Her car was found in the garage. Police suspected she had left voluntarily, though no confirmed sighting was ever reported. The hotel had changed owners 3 times since then. The next night, an elderly man checked in just before midnight. He wore a brown overcoat despite the warm weather and carried a leather suitcase scratched white at the corners. "Reservation under Samuel Pike," he said. I searched the system. No reservation. He smiled patiently. "I always stay here." Behind him, rain streaked the glass doors. I offered him room 508. His expression tightened. "I requested the 6th floor. We don't have rooms available there." That isn't true. His eyes moved to the room board behind me. Eleanor still has hers. I felt the skin rise along my arms. How do you know that name? He leaned closer. We checked in together. Jamal returned from helping another guest. The moment he saw Pike, he froze. Pike lifted one finger to his lips. Then he walked away from the desk. I called after him, but by the time I stepped into the lobby, he was gone. The security camera showed me talking to an empty space. Denise arrived early the next morning after I called her. She watched the footage twice. "You were tired," she said. I spoke to him. There was no one there. He knew Eleanor. Denise shut off the monitor. "You need this job, don't you?" The threat was clear. I said nothing. Before leaving, Jamal slipped me a photocopied page from an old hotel register. October 18th, 1981. Eleanor Vale, room 613. Samuel Pike, room 611. 3 more names occupied rooms 609, 615, and 617. All 5 people had later been reported missing. What was the conference? I asked. Jamal shook his head. There wasn't one. That evening, I tried calling my son before work. My wife answered and said he was asleep. He asked about your hotel, she added. What about it? He said a woman called and told him you were moving into room 613. My mouth went dry. What woman? He didn't know. At 11:30, the phone rang. I did not answer. It rang again. Then room 504 called. Then 312. Then the lobby phone beside the elevators. Every phone in the building began ringing at once. Guests opened their doors and complained into the hallway. Denise had told me what to do. I folded 2 towels, carried them to the service elevator, and pressed 6. The doors closed. A moment later, the indicator changed. Instead of returning, the elevator remained on the 6th floor. Then the phone rang again. This time, the display showed my son's home number. I answered. Dad, his voice trembled. Ethan, the lady says you forgot her towels. A woman breathed beside him. I grabbed the master key and ran for the stairs. The 6th floor hallway was colder than the rest of the hotel. The wallpaper had once been gold, but had faded to the color of old teeth. The lights buzzed overhead. Room 613 stood at the far end. Fresh footprints marked the carpet. They began at the elevator and stopped outside the door. I knocked. Mrs. Vale. The door opened. The room looked untouched by time. A floral suitcase rested on a rack. A black and white television glowed without sound. The air smelled of face powder, old perfume, and wet wool. Eleanor sat at the vanity. She appeared to be in her late 30s, with dark hair pinned neatly behind her ears. Her reflection did not match her movements. It kept staring at me after she turned away from the mirror. You took your time, she said. Where's my son? She smiled. He isn't here yet. Yet. She pointed toward the bed. Several old guest ledgers lay open across the blanket. Pages covered the walls. Every missing guest's name had been written repeatedly, hundreds of times, in different inks and handwritings. Samuel Pike stood near the bathroom door. Beside him were 3 other people dressed in clothing from the early 80s. All of them looked alive. All of them looked exhausted. Pike said, "She needs someone at the desk." Eleanor's reflection smiled. "The hotel does." I backed toward the door. It slammed shut. Eleanor rose. "The Ashcroft was built over another hotel," she said. "That one burned in 1922. 47 people were never recovered." The walls creaked. A voice whispered from inside them. "Check in." Eleanor's face changed for a moment. Her skin sagged gray against her skull, and her eyes filled with cloudy water. Then she looked normal again. "We thought we were attending a conference," Pike said. "But the invitations came from people who had already disappeared." "You can leave," Eleanor told me. "Someone always can." "What do you want?" "A replacement." The bathroom door opened. Inside was the hotel lobby. I saw myself behind the front desk, older and pale, checking in guests who cast no reflections. On the monitor, my son stood alone outside the hotel entrance. "Choose," Eleanor said. "Stay, or let the hotel invite him." I lunged for the ledgers. I did not have a plan. I only knew the room seemed to depend on those names. I grabbed the nearest book and threw it into the electric heater. The paper caught quickly. Every light in the room burst. The missing guest screamed. Not from pain, from relief. Flames raced across the pages pinned to the walls. The wallpaper blistered. Shapes moved behind it, pressing outward like bodies trapped beneath thin ice. Eleanor seized my wrist. Her hand was freezing. "You'll erase us." "That's the idea." Her expression broke. For the first time, she looked frightened. The floor tilted. The bathroom opened into different rooms, different years, different guests sleeping beneath unfamiliar blankets. I saw children, soldiers, businessmen, brides, and old women staring toward the same doorway. The hotel had been keeping them all. Pike tore burning pages from the wall. "Go," he shouted. The door to the hallway appeared again. I ran. Behind me, room 613 filled with voices calling my name. I reached the stairs as the fire alarm sounded. Sprinklers activated across the 6th floor, but no water entered 613. Smoke poured from beneath the door. Firefighters evacuated the hotel. They contained the fire to one room, though Denise insisted that room 613 had been sealed and empty for decades. The official report blamed old electrical wiring. The room contained no body, no luggage, and no guest ledgers. Denise fired me 2 days later. Jamal quit that same week. Marta refused to return to the 6th floor and was dismissed a month later. The Ashcroft remained open. I moved out of Cleveland and tried to forget it. For a while, the calls stopped. Then, last October, my son and I stayed overnight at a roadside motel in Indiana. At 11:30, the phone rang. A woman asked for fresh towels. I unplugged it. The television turned on by itself. A hotel directory appeared on the screen, though the motel had only 2 floors. At the bottom of the list was room 613. The guest name beside it was mine, and beneath my name, the checkout date was blank. Story 2. The hotel appeared on a road I had driven every week for 6 years. By sunrise, it was gone. My sister had lived 27 years without me, and the man who checked us in was still waiting behind the same desk. My name is Daniel Foster. I was 38 when this happened. I worked as a regional medical equipment salesman in Ohio, which meant I spent more nights in budget hotels than in my own apartment. That December, I was driving home from a conference in Pittsburgh with my younger sister, Emily. She had joined me because our father was in hospice care outside Columbus, and neither of us wanted to make the final visit alone. A freezing rain began shortly after midnight. The highway shone beneath my headlights like black glass. Ice clicked against the windshield, and the tires slipped whenever I crossed a bridge. Emily sat curled beneath her coat, watching our father's last voicemail on her phone without playing it. "You should listen," I said. "I will. You've been saying that for 3 days." She turned the screen face down. "You don't get to decide when I'm ready." Our father had asked for me during his decline. Emily believed he had always chosen me first, even though I was the one who had moved away and missed most of his illness. Before I could answer, the navigation screen froze. The route vanished. A sign appeared through the rain. "Hotel Vesper vacancy next right." I had never seen it before. The exit led onto a narrow road between dark fields. No other buildings were visible. After half a mile, warm lights emerged through the storm. The hotel stood 6 stories high, built of pale stone with tall windows and a copper roof. Its entrance canopy glowed gold against the rain. Cars from different eras filled the lot. A modern SUV, a mud-splash station wagon, several rounded sedans from the 1950s, and a black carriage with no horse. Emily leaned forward. This place wasn't on the map. Neither was the ice storm. I parked near the entrance. A bellman in a red coat opened my door before I switched off the engine. He was about 20, with neatly parted hair and pale skin. "Welcome back, Mr. Foster," he said. "I've never been here." His smile did not change. Not yet. Inside, the lobby smelled of polished wood, cigar smoke, and lilies. A chandelier burned overhead, though the bulbs flickered like candle flames. Soft piano music played from somewhere behind the walls. The clerk wore a dark green suit and a silver name badge reading MR. Vale. He slid a registration book toward me. 2 guests. 1 room, I said. Emily shook her head. 2. Mr. Vale looked at her for a long moment. "You usually share." "What does that mean?" she asked. He turned the book around. Our names were already written on the page. Daniel Foster. Room 504. Emily Foster. Room 217. Beside my name was the correct date. Beside hers was a date 27 years in the future. Emily laughed nervously. "Very funny." Mr. Vale dipped his pen into an inkwell. "I assure you, we do not joke about departure dates." I should have walked out. Instead, thunder shook the windows, and the lights outside disappeared behind sleet. My father might not survive the night. The nearest town was at least 30 miles away. "We'll stay until morning," I said. Mr. Vale handed us 2 brass keys. "No elevators after 2 a.m., he said. "If one arrives anyway, do not enter unless the operator knows your name." Emily stared at him. "You expect people to take that seriously?" Eventually, a woman named Ruth showed us toward the elevators. She looked to be in her 70s and wore a hotel uniform from another century, with a white collar buttoned tightly beneath her chin. 3 elevator doors stood at the end of the lobby. One was modern steel. One had an iron cage. The third was painted black and had no call button. Ruth pressed 5 for me and 2 for Emily. "Why are the rooms on different floors?" I asked. "The hotel assigns according to where you belong. I belong with my sister." Ruth gave me a pitying look. "Everyone says that before the floors separate." The steel elevator opened. The operator inside was a middle-aged man in a blue uniform. "Daniel Foster," he said. I stepped back. He smiled. "Mr. Vale told me." Emily grabbed my sleeve. "Let's just take the stairs." We did. The second floor looked ordinary at first. Patterned carpet, cream walls, brass lamps. But the air smelled faintly of cigarette smoke, and music drifted from one of the rooms. A radio announcer spoke about troops returning from Korea. Emily stopped outside room 217. The door stood open. Inside, a woman sat at the vanity brushing her hair. She looked exactly like Emily, but older. Her hair was gray. Her shoulders were narrow. A gold wedding ring shone on her hand. She saw us in the mirror. "You came early," she said. Emily backed into me. The older woman turned. Her face crumpled with grief. "Daniel." I could not speak. She crossed the room and touched my cheek. "You haven't aged." Emily pulled me away. "Who are you?" The woman looked at her younger self. "I'm what happens when he takes the elevator." A bell rang somewhere below us. Every door on the hallway opened at once. Guests stepped out wearing clothes from different decades. A soldier in a stained uniform. A girl in a silver dress. A man holding a newspaper dated 1978. None of them looked at one another. They all looked at me. The older Emily whispered, "Go to the 5th floor. Find room 504 before it opens." "What opens?" "My life without you." The hallway lights went out. When they returned, room 217 was empty. Dust covered the furniture. Emily stood trembling beside me. That was not me. She knew my name. She knew yours too. We took the stairs upward. The 3rd floor belonged to the 1920s. The wallpaper was dark red, and jazz music pulsed behind closed doors. Cigarette smoke gathered near the ceiling. Men and women laughed inside rooms that had no numbers. On the fourth floor, the walls were unfinished concrete. Emergency lights flashed red. Through a window, I saw a city skyline filled with buildings I did not recognize. Something huge moved slowly between them. Emily covered the glass. We keep going. The stairwell door to the fifth floor would not open. Behind it, someone knocked. 3 times. Then my father said, "Danny." I froze. His voice was weak, exactly as it had sounded in hospice. Emily reached for the handle. I stopped her. "Dad is in Columbus. What if this is why he asked us to come?" The voice behind the door began coughing. Then it whispered, "Emily never came." Her face changed. She pulled free and opened the door. The fifth floor smelled like antiseptic. Hospital curtains hung in place of walls. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Beds lined the corridor. Every patient was me. In one bed, I was a child with a broken arm. In another, I was old and connected to machines. In another, my body was covered with a sheet. Emily gripped my hand. At the end of the corridor stood room 504. The door was opening. Inside, I saw my father's hospice room. He was alive in bed. A clock on the wall read 1:58 a.m. "Mr." Vale stood beside him. "You are late," he said. My father turned toward me. "Daniel." I entered before Emily could stop me. The room felt real. I smelled his medication, the peppermint lotion the nurses used on his hands, and the stale coffee beside his bed. I sat beside him. "I'm sorry," I said. He squeezed my fingers. "For what?" "For not being there." "You were there." "No, Emily was." His eyes shifted toward the doorway. Emily stood outside the room, but the hallway behind her had changed. She was older again, gray-haired and exhausted. My father whispered, "You always choose the wrong version." "Mister." Vale closed the door. I lunged for it. The handle vanished. The clock changed to 2 o'clock. The black elevator appeared in the wall. Its doors opened without sound. Inside stood Ruth. "Time to depart," she said. Emily's voice came through the wall. "Daniel, don't leave me." "Mister." Vale took out the registration book. "You have stayed here many times," he said. "Sometimes you leave alone. Sometimes she does. Once, neither of you left. I don't understand. This hotel exists in the interval between decisions. Every room preserves a consequence." The elevator interior stretched into darkness. Doors floated along its walls, opening onto different versions of my life. I saw myself caring for my father. I saw Emily married with children. I saw our funeral. I saw my apartment empty for decades. Which one is real? I asked. "Mister." Vale smiled. "The one you choose to remember." Ruth held out her hand. The hotel shook. A bell began ringing through every floor. Emily screamed behind the wall. I grabbed the metal wastebasket and threw it through the hospice room window. Instead of glass breaking, the entire scene tore like paper. Cold rain burst through. Beyond it was the hotel parking lot. My car sat below. I climbed onto the sill. "Mister." Vale seized my coat. "You cannot leave without checking out." I tore free and jumped. I fell only a few feet. Emily landed beside me, though I had not seen her jump. We ran to the car. The hotel windows filled with versions of us. Children, elderly strangers, corpses, people we might still become. The black elevator descended along the outside wall. Its doors opened at ground level. My father stood inside. Emily stopped. "He's alive." I grabbed her. "He isn't ours." Our father smiled. "Emily," he said, "this time, choose me." She stepped toward him. I slapped her. She stared at me in shock. Then the elevator operator reached from the darkness. His arm stretched far beyond human length. Emily ducked. His fingers closed around empty air. We drove away as the hotel folded inward behind us. Floors collapsed into one another without sound. Windows became points of light, then vanished. The storm ended immediately. My phone showed 3:12 a.m. We reached hospice 20 minutes later. Our father had died at 2 o'clock. Emily listened to his voicemail at the bedside. In it, he apologized for making her feel second best. We cried together until morning. The hotel could not be found afterward. The exit did not exist. No property record mentioned Hotel Vesper. But the years have not passed correctly since that night. Emily is now 41. I am still 38. Doctors say there is nothing wrong with me. My face has not changed. My hair has not grown gray. Even old scars remain fresh. Emily has a husband and 2 children now. Her oldest daughter is named Ruth. Last week, the girl drew a picture of a hotel with 6 floors. At one window, she drew an old woman with Emily's face. At another, she drew me standing behind a front desk. When I asked who I was waiting for, she looked confused. For Aunt Emily, she said. She checks in tomorrow. The next morning, a brass key appeared in my pocket, and engraved on it was the number of a floor that has not happened yet. Story 3. The staff at the Bellwether Hotel smiled at every guest, remembered every name, and never answered a direct question after midnight. I learned why on my second night there, when a housekeeper unlocked my deadbolt from the outside and asked me to lie face down on the bed. My name is Adrian Holt. I was 34 when my employer sent me to the Bellwether for a 3-day training seminar in coastal Massachusetts. I worked in payroll software sales, which meant most of my travel involved identical conference rooms, weak coffee, and hotels designed to be forgotten. The Bellwether was not forgettable. It stood alone above a rocky shoreline, 7 stories of dark brick and green copper facing the Atlantic. Wind came off the water hard enough to shake the windows. The lobby smelled of beeswax, salt, and old roses. Every clock showed a different time. A bellhop named Peter took my suitcase. He was young, maybe 22, with a narrow face and a red uniform buttoned to the throat. "First stay, Mr. Holt." "Yes." His smile disappeared for half a second. "Then keep your room key with you." At the front desk, the manager, Evelyn Sloan, checked me in. She was elegant, silver-haired, and so calm that her stillness felt rehearsed. "Room 704, she said. The clerk beside her dropped his pen. Evelyn looked at him. He lowered his eyes. "Problem?" I asked. "No problem at all." She slid a brass key across the desk. The number 704 had been engraved over another number that had been filed away. My co-workers had arrived earlier. Rachel Kim, our regional manager, was practical and impatient with anything she considered inefficient. Marcus Lane, another salesman, was friendly, loud, and always looking for a reason to leave meetings early. The 4th member of our group was Tessa Boyd from technical support, observant and usually quiet until she noticed something everyone else had missed. At dinner, Tessa leaned toward me. "Did your housekeeper knock?" "I haven't seen one. She came into my room while I was unpacking. Maybe you didn't hear her." The chain was on. Marcus grinned. "Ghost maid." Tessa ignored him. She looked in the bathtub, under the bed, and inside the closet. Then she asked whether I slept deeply. Rachel put down her fork. "You reported it?" The front desk said it was part of evening service. "What kind of evening service checks under the bed?" I asked. Across the dining room, 3 employees were watching us. Peter stood beside the kitchen doors. A housekeeper in a gray dress held a stack of towels. Evelyn stood near the bar. The moment I noticed them, all 3 looked away. The seminar ran normally the next morning. By afternoon, a storm had moved in. Waves struck the cliffs below the hotel with a deep, steady impact I could feel through the conference room floor. During a break, Marcus found a guest ledger in a locked cabinet beneath the podium. "Look at this," he said. The pages were handwritten and dated 1949. Every November, 4 rooms had been circled in red. "Our rooms." Rachel shut the book. "Put it back." Tessa turned several pages. The same 4 rooms were marked every year. Beside some names, someone had written transferred. Beside others, accepted. My name appeared on the current page. So did Rachel's, Marcus's, and Tessa's. The entries had been written in ink that was still wet. Rachel took the ledger to Evelyn. We followed her into the lobby. "This was in our conference room," Rachel said. "Why are our names in it?" Evelyn glanced at the page. "Administrative tradition. Why were our rooms selected?" "They were available." Tessa pointed to the word accepted. "What does that mean?" The lobby clock struck midnight. Every employee stopped moving. Not gradually. 1 second they were checking reservations, carrying glasses, speaking to guests. The next, they stood perfectly still. Evelyn closed the ledger. "We do not discuss hotel policy after midnight." Peter crossed the lobby and locked the front doors. The housekeepers drew the curtains. "What's happening?" Marcus asked. No one answered. Then every employee turned toward the elevators. The doors opened. The car was empty. A smell of wet earth entered the lobby. Evelyn spoke without looking at us. "Please return to your rooms." Rachel stepped toward her. "We're leaving. The road is flooded. We'll take our chances." Peter blocked the door. He looked frightened now. "Please," he whispered, "don't make them choose in the lobby." Evelyn said his name sharply. He moved aside. We went upstairs together. The 7th floor hallway was colder than the lobby. Lamps flickered along the walls, illuminating framed photographs of former hotel staff. I stopped at one. Peter stood in a group photograph dated 1926. He had the same face, the same uniform. Marcus stared at it. "That has to be a relative." Tessa looked at another photograph. The gray-dressed housekeeper stood beside a Christmas tree in 1958. In a third image, Evelyn greeted guests in 1973 without appearing any younger. Rachel tried her phone. No service. We agreed to stay together in my room until morning. The deadbolt slid into place. Rachel pushed a chair beneath the handle. Marcus opened the minibar, though no one joined him. At 12:40, someone knocked. "Housekeeping." The woman's voice was soft. Tessa went pale. "That's her." Rachel called through the door. "We don't need anything." The handle turned. The deadbolt slowly rotated by itself. The chair scraped backward. The door opened. The housekeeper entered carrying clean sheets. Her name tag read Empress. Wren. She was thin, middle-aged, and expressionless. "Mr. Holt," she said, "please lie face down on the bed." I backed away. "Why?" "It must not see your eyes when it enters." Marcus laughed once. No one else did. "Mrs." Wren began stripping the blankets from the bed. Tessa grabbed her wrist. The housekeeper looked at her hand as though surprised by the contact. Under her sleeve, her skin was covered in tiny round scars arranged in rings. "Who did that to you?" Tessa asked. "Mrs." Wren looked toward the ceiling. The guest below. Something moved inside the floor. A heavy shape dragged itself beneath the carpet, crossing from the window to the bed. The mattress lifted slightly as it passed underneath. "Mrs." Wren pulled her wrist free. "Face down," she repeated. Then the lights went out. A sound entered the room. It was not a footstep. It was the soft compression of something enormous fitting itself into a space too small to contain it. I dropped beside the bed. Rachel crouched near the wall. Tessa covered her face. Marcus remained standing, frozen in the dark. A voice spoke from the ceiling. Which one was promised? It sounded like many people breathing through one throat. "Mrs." Wren answered, "Room 704. Marcus ran. He reached the door, but Peter appeared in the hallway, and struck him in the chest with both hands. Marcus fell backward. "I'm sorry," Peter said. The carpet opened beneath him. Not tore. Opened. A black seam spread from the bed to his feet. Fingers emerged, long and pale, each wearing a brass hotel ring. They closed around Marcus's ankles. He screamed and clawed at the floor. Rachel grabbed his wrists. I caught one arm. Tessa held his coat. For several seconds, we kept him above the opening. Then Evelyn stepped into the room. She struck Rachel across the face with the brass key box from the front desk. We lost our grip. Marcus disappeared beneath the carpet. The seam closed. His screams continued below us, moving through the walls and down into the building. Evelyn adjusted her jacket. "One has been accepted," she said. 3 remain eligible. Rachel lunged at her. Peter caught Rachel, but Tessa shoved Mrs. Ran into him. I grabbed the key box from Evelyn and struck the wall alarm. Nothing happened. "Why are you doing this?" I shouted. Evelyn looked genuinely tired. The hotel was built over a tidal cave. The first owner sealed it. Every winter, the sea opened the cave again. A knock came from inside the wall. "The thing below does not want bodies," Peter said. "It wants places in the world above." Evelyn glared at him. He continued anyway. "When it takes a guest, one of us is allowed to leave." I looked at the photographs in the hallway. "You're trapped here." Mrs. Wren gave a small nod. "We serve until replaced." Rachel stared at Evelyn. "You sacrifice guests to escape?" "Not escape," Evelyn said. "Age." The floor pulsed. A black stain spread beneath the bed. Evelyn pointed at Tessa. "Room 221 is next." Peter moved between them. "No," Evelyn's face hardened. "You have waited 100 years. I'm done waiting." He pulled a ring of keys from his belt and threw them to me. "Basement. Laundry corridor. Last door." Mrs. Wren seized Tessa. Rachel tackled her. Peter held the hallway open while I dragged Tessa out. Rachel followed, blood running from her lip. Behind us, Evelyn shouted an order. Every door on the 7th floor opened. Hotel employees stepped into the corridor. Bellhops, cooks, maids, clerks, doormen. Some wore uniforms from decades I recognized. Others were clothing so old I could not place it. Their faces were pale with fear. "Don't let them reach the cave," Evelyn said. We ran down the stairs. The hotel changed as we descended. On the 6th floor, the wallpaper was green and gas lamps burned along the walls. On the 4th, war sirens sounded outside. On the 2nd, seawater flowed ankle-deep across the carpet. Peter stayed with us, locking doors behind him. "How do we stop it?" I asked. "You don't," he said. "You give it the hotel." The basement laundry room was filled with rusted machines and wet sheets hanging from ceiling lines. The last door opened onto a stone tunnel. The air smelled of salt, rot, and something sweet. At the end was the cave. Black water filled a circular chamber beneath the hotel. Hundreds of brass room keys hung from chains over the surface. Faces moved below the water. Marcus was among them. His eyes were open. His mouth formed my name. At the center of the cave stood a wooden desk. An open ledger rested on it. Peter pointed to the current page. "Cross out the rooms." I took the pen. Evelyn's voice came from the tunnel. "Think carefully." She approached with the staff behind her. "If you erase the offering, it takes everyone currently registered. Guests and staff." Rachel asked. "Everyone." The water began rising. Tessa looked at the names in the ledger. "There are 200 guests upstairs." Evelyn smiled. "Now you understand." Peter stepped toward the water. "No. It takes everyone registered to the hotel." He ripped the guest ledger from my hands and tore out the current page. Then he dropped the staff registry into the black water. The cave erupted. The staff screamed together. Hands rose from the pool and seized them by their uniforms. Evelyn grabbed the desk, but the wood softened beneath her fingers. "Mrs. Wren closed her eyes and allowed herself to be pulled forward. Peter looked at me. "For once," he said, "the staff will serve themselves." The cave swallowed him. The hotel shook violently. We ran. Walls cracked around us. Water burst through the floors. Guests poured into the stairwells as alarms finally began ringing. We escaped through the kitchen and reached the parking lot in freezing rain. Behind us, the bellwether collapsed inward floor by floor. No flames, no explosion. It simply sank into the earth until only the copper roof remained, then vanished beneath the flooded lawn. Officially, a landslide destroyed the hotel. 23 people were reported missing. Marcus was one of them. No employee records could be found. Police claimed many staff members had probably used false names, though no one could explain why every framed photograph had disappeared before investigators arrived. Rachel resigned a month later. Tessa stopped traveling entirely. I still stay in hotels for work, but I never sleep after midnight. 2 weeks ago, I checked into a chain hotel in Chicago. The young bellhop looked familiar. He carried my suitcase to the elevator and handed me a brass key, though the hotel used electronic cards. His face was older, but I recognized Peter. "You got out," I whispered. He looked toward the security camera. "Not exactly." Then the elevator opened, releasing the smell of wet earth. Peter leaned close enough that I could feel his cold breath. "The new staff have chosen your room." Story 4. The hotel called my name before I had checked in. It came from somewhere behind the lobby wall, soft and breathless, like a person whispering through a pillow. "Thomas." No one else reacted. "My name is Thomas Reed. I was 36 when I stayed at the Holloway Grand, a hotel in northern Pennsylvania that had been closed for nearly 20 years and recently reopened after renovation. I was there because my company had sent me to inspect a commercial heating system installed during the restoration. It was supposed to be a 2-day job. The Holloway stood alone above a river valley, surrounded by black pines and low November fog. The building was too large for the empty road leading to it. 9 floors of gray stone, narrow windows, and steep copper roofs darkened by rain. Inside, the lobby smelled of fresh paint layered over mildew. New chandeliers hung above old marble floors. The air was warm, but the walls felt cold when I touched them. The manager, Julian Cross, greeted me at reception. He was tall, thin, and carefully polite, with tired eyes and a gray suit that seemed slightly too large for him. "You'll be in room 418, he said. A woman behind the desk dropped a stack of key cards. Julian glanced at her. "Is there a problem, Marie?" No, Marie did not look at me again. A maintenance worker named Leon showed me to the mechanical room. He was in his late 50s, broad-shouldered, and smelled of machine oil and tobacco. "You installed these boilers?" I asked. "No. I came with the old building." He smiled, but his eyes remained serious. The heating system was new. The pipes were not. Several old cast iron lines disappeared into sections of wall that were not shown on the plans. One of them vibrated beneath my hand, not like water pressure, like a pulse. "Where does this go?" I asked. Leon pulled my hand away. "Nowhere you need to inspect. I need to inspect everything connected to the system. No, you need to sign the report and leave tomorrow." His tone was not hostile. It was frightened. At dinner, I met 2 other guests. Claire Simmons was a travel writer reviewing the reopening. She was confident, curious, and delighted by every strange detail. "This place is perfect," she said. "Old money decay, hidden corridors, tragic history." Across from her sat Martin Bell, a retired architect who had worked on the original restoration survey. Martin was nervous and rarely touched his food. Claire asked him why the central wing had been sealed. "Structural instability," he replied. "That's what the brochure says." Then believe the brochure. The dining room lights dimmed. From inside the wall behind Martin, something whispered his name. He dropped his fork. Claire's smile faded. "You heard that too?" Martin stood. "I'm going to bed." As he left, the wall gave a long, low creak. It sounded almost disappointed. The first night, I woke at 2:13 a.m. because someone was walking in my room. The carpet compressed in slow steps from the door to the foot of the bed. I could not see anyone. I switched on the lamp. The movement stopped. A wet patch had appeared in the wallpaper opposite me. It was roughly the shape of a human face. As I watched, the surface tightened. Lips formed beneath the paper. "Thomas," it whispered. I ran into the hallway. Room 418 was gone. The number on my door now read 612. I checked the doors on either side. 611 and 613. The hallway stretched far beyond where the outer wall should have ended. Lamps repeated into darkness. The carpet pattern seemed to curve slightly, as if the corridor continued in a circle. Claire stepped from a room 20 yards away. "What happened to your room?" I asked. She looked behind her. Her door said 418. "That's my room now." We walked toward the elevator together. After several minutes, we passed her door again, then mine. We had not turned around. Claire stopped smiling. "That's not possible." A service cart stood ahead of us. Marie, the desk clerk, was arranging towels on it. "What are you doing up here?" Claire asked. Marie looked toward the ceiling. "Keeping it calm." "Keeping what calm?" The walls whispered all three of our names. Marie gripped the cart. "You should go back to your rooms." "Which rooms?" I asked. Her eyes filled with tears. "Whichever ones it gives you." The elevator doors opened. No elevator car waited behind them. Instead, there was another hallway. Its wallpaper was dark green and water-stained. Gas lamps burned along the walls. The air smelled of soot and wet wool. A child stood at the far end. She wore a white nightdress and held one hand against the wall. The wall moved beneath her palm, slowly inward, slowly outward. Breathing. Claire raised her phone to record. The child turned. Her face was smooth from forehead to chin. The elevator doors slammed shut. By morning, the hotel looked normal again. Julian dismissed our account as stress caused by the renovation. Martin did not. He found me in the mechanical room and locked the door behind him. "The hotel was never properly designed," he said. "What does that mean?" "The original architect kept changing the plans during construction. Rooms appeared on drawings after they were built. Corridors measured longer inside than outside. Workers disappeared between walls." "You believe the building is alive?" Martin stared at the old pipes. "I believe something was built around." He showed me a copy of the original foundation plan. Beneath the center of the hotel was a circular chamber labeled "Only Reservoir." "There was no water system there," he said. "They sealed it in 1911. Why reopen the hotel?" "Because the owners discovered it stays dormant when occupied." I looked at him. "It needs guests. It needs attention." A deep vibration passed through the floor. The boiler gauges jumped. From inside one pipe came the sound of people whispering, not random voices. I heard my mother. She had died when I was 19. "Tommy," she said, "I'm still waiting." I stepped back. Martin closed the valve. The voice stopped. "It feeds on memory," he said. "Fear makes the rooms grow." That afternoon, Claire disappeared. Her camera lay in the lobby, still recording. The final video showed her following a hallway behind the ballroom. The corridor narrowed as she walked, its walls bending inward. Family photographs appeared on the wallpaper, images from her childhood, her wedding, her father's funeral. At the end, Claire whispered, "That isn't how it happened." A door opened. Her own voice answered from inside. The recording ended. Julian refused to call the police. "She checked out," he said. "Her coat is still upstairs." She left. Martin grabbed him by the collar. "How many guests have you lost?" Julian did not resist. 3 since reopening. Marie began crying behind the desk. Leon looked away. Julian straightened his suit. Without guests, it expands. What expands? I asked. He looked around the lobby. The part that isn't the hotel. At midnight, the front doors vanished. The windows showed only brick walls. Every room phone began ringing. Then the hotel shifted. The floor rolled beneath us like the deck of a ship. Marble cracked. The staircase folded upward and disappeared into the ceiling. Hallways opened where paintings had hung seconds earlier. Guests poured into the lobby. Some shouted. Some cried. One elderly woman insisted her room had filled with seawater. The walls began speaking. They used the voices of dead relatives, lost children, former lovers, and forgotten friends. Panic spread quickly. The building swelled with it. The ceiling rose higher. New balconies appeared above us. Doors multiplied along the walls. Martin shouted over the noise. The reservoir. We followed Leon through the kitchen and into a service corridor. Marie came with us, carrying a ring of old iron keys. Julian remained in the lobby, trying to calm the guests. The basement stairs descended farther than the hotel was tall. The air became damp and warm. The walls changed from concrete to brick, then from brick to something pale and ridged. I touched it. It flexed. Leon pulled me away. At the bottom stood a circular iron door. Marie unlocked it. The chamber beyond was enormous. The foundation plans had shown a room 30 feet wide. This space stretched beyond the reach of our flashlights. Hotel rooms hung inside it like boxes suspended in darkness. Some were upside down. Some had no floors. In one, Claire stood at a window, pounding silently on the glass. Below them all, something moved. I never saw its full shape. I saw folds of pale surface, beams embedded like bones, doors opening and closing across its body. Windows blinked. Corridors extended from it and withdrew again. The hotel had not been built over the creature. It had been built from it. Martin whispered, "Oh God." The chamber answered in his voice. "Oh God." One of the suspended rooms opened. A younger version of Martin stood inside, holding architectural plans. "You knew," the younger man said. Martin collapsed. He admitted that, during the renovation survey, he had discovered the chamber. The owners paid him to alter the plans and conceal it. "You helped wake it," Leon said. "I thought the building could contain it." The darkness shifted. Walls rose around us. Suddenly, I stood in my childhood kitchen. My mother sat at the table. She looked exactly as she had before cancer hollowed her face. "You left the hospital," she said. "I was 19. You went home. I couldn't watch." She smiled sadly. The room began closing around me. I understood then. The thing did not consume bodies first. It trapped people inside the memory they feared most, then built that memory into itself. I picked up the kitchen chair and smashed the window. Behind the glass was the chamber. I climbed through. Marie was trapped inside a nursery. Leon stood in a burning workshop. Martin knelt in a room filled with blueprints. At the center of the chamber, an old boiler pipe entered the creature's body. The same line I had examined earlier. "The heat system," I said. "It's circulating through it." Leon understood. "If we overload the boilers, we cook the whole building," Marie said. "And everyone in it," Martin replied. A scream echoed from Claire's suspended room. I looked at the pipes, the rooms, the moving walls. "We don't need to destroy it," I said. "We make it let go." We opened every pressure valve. Steam thundered through the old lines. The creature convulsed. Rooms swung violently in the darkness. Hallways tore away from its body. Thousands of voices screamed from inside the walls. The pressure climbed. A pipe burst beside Martin. Steam swallowed him. I heard him shout for us to continue. Leon turned the final valve. The chamber contracted. The suspended rooms began falling open. Guests spilled into corridors, stairwells, closets, and the lobby above. Claire dropped from a doorway onto the chamber floor. I caught her before she struck the ground. The creature pulled the walls inward around us. Marie unlocked an iron service door I had not noticed before. Run! We climbed as the basement collapsed behind us. The lobby had returned to its normal size. The front doors were visible. Julian stood beside them. Blood ran from his ears. "It will follow," he said. Leon shoved him through the exit. We evacuated everyone before the boilers exploded. The fire destroyed the central wing. Investigators blamed faulty restoration work. Martin was listed among the dead. Claire published nothing about what happened. Marie disappeared before police could interview her. The Holloway Grand was demolished 6 months later. I attended the demolition. When the final wall came down, there was no circular chamber beneath the hotel, only soil and stone. I tried to believe it was over. Then my company assigned me to inspect a newly renovated apartment building in Pittsburgh. The heating plans showed several old pipes running into a wall that contained no rooms. As I stood beside them, one began vibrating beneath my hand. A voice whispered through the metal. It was Claire. She said, "Thomas, this hallway wasn't here yesterday." Then the wall behind me took a slow, deep breath. Story 5. The first time I tried to leave the Marrow House Hotel, the front door opened into my own room. The second time, it opened into a hallway I had never seen. By the third attempt, I could no longer remember what waited for me outside. My name is Nathan Cole. I was 39 when I checked into the Marrow House during a snowstorm in western New York. I had been driving to Buffalo to attend my daughter's school recital. My ex-wife had warned me that missing another one would prove I had not changed. I had already missed her birthday that year. The storm erased the highway shortly after dusk. Snow swept sideways across my headlights, and the tires lost traction twice. When I saw the hotel sign glowing beyond a row of dead trees, I turned in. The building was long and low, with pale siding and narrow windows. A covered entrance sagged beneath the weight of snow. Only 3 other cars stood in the lot. Inside, the lobby was warm enough to make my skin sting. A fire burned behind cloudy glass. The carpet smelled damp, and somewhere deeper in the hotel, water dripped with perfect regularity. The clerk was a heavy-set man named Graham. He had a soft voice, thinning hair, and a habit of looking past me before answering. "One night," he asked, "just until the road clears." He slid a paper registration card across the counter. There was no computer. I wrote my name, phone number, and destination. Graham looked at the card. "Family visit? My daughter." "That's good," he said. "People should have somewhere to return to." A woman sitting near the fireplace glanced at me. She was around 60, wrapped in a purple coat. Beside her sat a man in mechanic's coveralls and a younger woman holding a red backpack against her chest. Graham handed me a brass key. Room 118. Breakfast at 7. The west exit is locked after midnight. What about the front? His eyes shifted toward the doors. The front is always open. My room was at the end of a short corridor. It was clean but outdated, with floral curtains, a humming radiator, and a framed picture of a farmhouse in summer. I called my daughter, Lily. She answered after the 4th ring. "Dad, I'm stuck in the storm, but I'll be there by morning." "You promised." "I know." The silence that followed hurt more than anger. "You always say morning," she said. Before I could respond, the call dropped. I tried again. No signal. At 10:15, I returned to the lobby. The 3 guests were still by the fire. The older woman introduced herself as Diane Mercer. She was traveling to Rochester for her sister's funeral. The mechanic was Carlos Vega, whose delivery truck had broken down nearby. The younger woman, Erin Shaw, said she was a graduate student heading home for winter break. "Did anyone get a signal?" I asked. Carlos held up his phone. "Nothing. Landline doesn't work either." Graham stood behind the desk, polishing the same brass bell again and again. "The lines freeze," he said. Aaron looked toward the windows. It stopped snowing. She was right. Outside, the world was completely white and completely still. No wind. No falling snow. Just darkness beyond the parking lot. Carlos stood. Road might be clear enough. He pushed open the front door. Room 118 waited on the other side. My room. The bed was unmade. My suitcase sat open on the chair. My phone lay on the nightstand, though I could feel it in my pocket. Carlos closed the door. No one spoke. I opened it again. The lobby entrance now led into a long corridor lined with identical wallpaper. A ceiling light flickered far away. Graham remained behind the desk. "What did you do?" Diane asked. He stopped polishing the bell. "I didn't do anything." "Where is outside?" Aaron demanded. Graham looked genuinely confused. "Outside." Carlos grabbed him by the collar. "The road." "The parking lot." Graham's face tightened with fear. "You should not say places it has not shown you." Something knocked from inside the wall. 3 slow taps. Carlos released him. The front doors opened by themselves. The parking lot had returned. Our cars sat under clean white snow. We rushed outside. The cold was sharp and dry. I ran to my car, cleared the windshield, and started the engine. The dashboard clock read 10:17. I pulled toward the road. After 50 yards, my headlights illuminated the hotel entrance. I had driven straight ahead, yet I was back in the parking lot. Carlos tried next. His truck circled behind the building and returned from the opposite side. Diane walked toward the tree line. 10 minutes later, she emerged from the hotel's revolving door, crying. "I never turned around," she said. "We went back inside because there was nowhere else to go. The lobby had changed. The fireplace was gone. The carpet was blue instead of red. A Christmas tree stood where Diane had been sitting. Graham was no longer behind the desk. A young woman in a gray uniform stood there instead. Her name tag said Lucy. "Welcome to Marrow House," she said. "We're already checked in," I told her. She examined the ledger. "There are no guests registered tonight." Carlos swore. I found the card I had signed. The lines were blank. At the top, in neat handwriting, someone had written, "Reason for stay, forgotten." Erin opened her backpack. It was empty. She stared into it. I packed clothes. Diane checked her purse and found a child's mitten inside. She held it against her chest. "My sister had one like this." "What was your sister's name?" Lucy asked. Diane opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Her face collapsed. "I don't know." The hotel was taking memories. We understood that at the same moment. I pulled a receipt from my wallet and wrote, "My daughter is Lily. She is 11. Her recital is tomorrow. I am going because I love her." I wrote it twice and put one copy in my shoe. Erin copied the idea, writing her home address along her arm. Carlos wrote his wife's name across his palm. Diane could only write sister. We decided to search for another exit. The east corridor ended at a laundry room. The west corridor split into 3 hallways that should not have fit inside the building. We chose the middle one. The air cooled as we walked. The carpet changed beneath our feet from blue to brown to bare wood. Room numbers repeated. Then 114 again. Behind one door, I heard Lily laughing. I reached for the handle. Erin stopped me. "That's what it wants. You don't know that. Does your daughter laugh like that?" I listened. The sound was too perfect. A clean recording with no breath between the bursts. We kept moving. Behind another door, Carlos heard his wife calling his name. Behind the next, Diane heard a woman crying. She opened it before we could stop her. The room beyond was a sunny kitchen. A younger Diane stood at a table beside another woman. Both were smiling over a birthday cake. Diane stepped inside. "My sister." The door began closing. Carlos grabbed her coat, but she fought him. "Let me go." The woman at the table smiled. Her teeth were small and white and far too numerous. Aaron slammed the door. Diane struck her across the face. "You took her from me." "No," Aaron said, crying. "It was never her." Diane looked at the blank door. Then she whispered, "Who?" The word sister had vanished from her paper. We returned toward the lobby. It took nearly an hour. When we arrived, morning sunlight filled the windows. The storm was gone. Cars moved along the road outside. Lucy smiled from the desk. "You are free to leave." Carlos opened the door. Warm summer air entered. Across the road stood a gas station. A newspaper box near the curb showed a date in July, though it had been December when we arrived. A woman waited beside Carlos's truck. He began to cry. "My wife." She called his name. Carlos ran outside. The moment he crossed the threshold, the road vanished. Beyond the door was a dark room filled with hanging sheets. Carlos screamed once. The door slammed. His name disappeared from his palm. Lucy looked at us. Guests leave when they stop remembering why they came. Aaron stepped toward her. "You make the illusions." Lucy's smile trembled. "I only show the doors." "Who makes them?" Lucy looked toward the ceiling. The dripping sound stopped. All the lights went out. The hotel whispered around us. Not through the walls, through our own voices. I heard myself say, "Lily is not real." I pressed my fingers into my ears. The voice continued inside my head. "You invented her because you were lonely." I reached into my shoe. The paper was there. "My daughter is Lily." But the sentence looked unfamiliar. I knew the words. I understood their meaning. I simply could not feel them. Aaron began reciting from her arm. "My name is Aaron Shaw. My mother lives at 82 Parker Lane. I have a dog named Milo." Diane stood very still. She had nothing left to recite. Lucy whispered, "The hotel empties you until there is enough room." "For what?" I asked. The walls inhaled. Every door in the lobby opened. Behind them were hundreds of rooms, each containing a different life. I saw myself attending Lily's recital. I saw myself arriving too late. I saw a version of me with no daughter at all. The hotel was not merely creating illusions. It was offering replacements. A life without guilt. A life without grief. A life with no reason to leave. Diane stepped toward a room where her sister waited. Aaron caught her hand. Diane looked at her like a stranger. "Do I know you?" Before Aaron could answer, the floor shifted. The lobby stretched into a corridor. Lucy stood at the far end beside the front door. "Only one memory can survive the exit," she said. "Choose carefully." The corridor began narrowing. Doors opened on both sides. Voices called us by name. I ran toward Lucy. Aaron dragged Diane beside me. Hands reached from the rooms. Not claws, not monsters, but familiar hands. My father's. My mother's. Lily's. They offered comfort. Forgiveness. Excuses. The corridor tightened until my shoulders scraped the walls. Aaron stumbled. Diane stopped. "I'm tired," she said. A door opened beside her. Her sister stood inside. This time, the illusion did not smile. It simply held out its arms. Diane let go of Aaron. I grabbed her, but she whispered, "I don't remember enough to be afraid." The room took her. The door vanished. Aaron and I kept running. At the end of the corridor, Lucy held the front door open. Beyond it, snow fell over the parking lot. Real snow. Uneven, wind-blown, dirty near the tires. Aaron crossed first. The hallway contracted behind me. Something used Lily's voice. "Dad, don't leave me here." I turned. My daughter stood barefoot in the corridor. She was crying. I nearly went back. Then I saw her reflection in a brass wall plate. She had no face. I forced myself through the door. The hotel disappeared behind us. Aaron and I stood beside the highway at dawn. Snow covered the field where the building had been. My car sat on the shoulder with its engine running. Only 3 minutes had passed. Police found no trace of Carlos or Diane. They treated our story as shock brought on by carbon monoxide, though neither of us had elevated levels. I reached Buffalo in time for the recital. Lily walked onto the stage wearing a blue dress. For several seconds, I did not recognize her. Then she saw me. Her face changed in a way no illusion could imitate. Relief, anger, love, all at once. I remembered. Mostly. Aaron still calls me every December. We read our notes to each other to make sure nothing else has disappeared. Last night, I found the original hotel registration card in my coat pocket. My name was still on it. So was Aaron's. Carlos and Diane were listed beneath us. A fifth name had been added in fresh ink. Lily Cole. And under reason for stay, the hotel had written, T.O. bring her father back.